What do narcissists have in common with animals? Those of a predatorial nature. Predators. What do narcissists have in common with predators? Well, there are some things that they share of similarity, and there are some differences. Narcissists have capacity to experience a more complex range of human emotions than animals, than animalistic predators. Or at least in theories, narcissists do, because that's just the way the human brain is wired. But narcissists have cut themselves away from tapping into or from experiencing much of this range of human emotions. And that's done to protect them from their endemic feelings of shame and worthlessness. In other words, as long as narcissists can only access the most primitive of emotions, they feel less vulnerable. So feelings of lust, anger, adrenaline, excitement, those feelings don't make them feel very vulnerable. Those are more primitive feelings. But the feelings that stand in between these intense, rushing emotions can make them feel more vulnerable. And it's this attempt at never feeling vulnerable which explains why narcissists are so good at making up false narratives and believing it. That's why they're so good at projecting their negative feelings onto you as opposed to accepting the feelings. They really are masters at both projection and blame shifting. And that fear that they have of ever feeling vulnerable, of ever feeling worthless, shameful, it explains why they're so superficial. And they don't really allow themselves to tap into their depths, because they're afraid of what feelings might surface. And where they do come across as somebody who has depth, real character, a complex set of emotions at play, all that is just an act where they mimic the behaviors of normal people. One of the skills that many narcissists have is they can morph into different characters depending on the situation. When you don't really have any substance, all you have is an act to play, and that's why they're good at that. But even though they do share a lot of similarities, commonalities with predatorial animals, there are some differences. They're not quite like a predatorial animal. They're very similar, but there are some differences. Just for example, when an animal, the predator, goes in for the attack, to capture, to kill the prey, you see them in full attack mode. They are wide open. And sometimes that means they take risks. And predators sometimes die. If you've ever watched National Geographic or any TV show where you see the animals in the wild, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Narcissists are too fearful to go in full attack mode. Instead, they prefer stealth. Because they're cowards, they don't like suffering the consequences of their actions. They like to attack, kill the prey, but they don't like being seen doing it. They don't like facing any dangers in the process. Instead, they like to create messy, unfair, dangerous situations. And they like to do it in such a way where, of course, there's always somebody to suffer the consequences of a dirty deed, but they like to set other people up to take the blame. And they do a lot of planning, a lot of careful thinking to try to make sure that other people suffer the consequences of their actions. Narcissists don't own up to their ways, but they know that somebody must be held responsible. And that's where you come in.